Hello and welcome to the Textile Conservation Lab of the Minnesota Historical Society. My name is Ann Frisina and I'm the Textile Conservator. Today in this podcast we will be going over how to roll a textile. Rolled storage is a good way to store textiles. It prevents any creasing that may occur during folded storage. It's a great way to store large items that are too big to put into a box or say too thick to fold. And if you have a textile that's too fragile, it can be wrapped safely around a tube. Now, if you're considering rolling a very large textile like a tapestry or a larger rug, I would suggest that you call a conservator to get some extra guidelines. Within the museum community, we like to use acid-free tubes for rolled storage. And I have 3 to show you here that come in a small, a medium, and a large. And these tubes can get very large, up to 10 inches. Now, the thing about these tubes is that they're extremely expensive. And for that reason, many smaller institutions prefer to use a regular paper tube that I have here, this brown paper. Now this paper has acid in it and it will harm your textile, and for that reason the paper tube has been covered with a barrier called Marble Seal. And I have a roll of it right here. And when I unroll it, if you see here, there is a shiny side and a matte side. And the matte side can go straight down on the paper tube and be secured with a warm iron, and you just iron it on and it just secures to it greatly. It just marries very, very well. Then you want to be sure to wrap it over the edge. And in this way, you've created a barrier between your acidic tube and the Marble Seal. And what that does is it prevents any kind of water vapor or off-gassing to emit through it. And one more option. Say you don't have Marble Seal available to you, but you do have the polyester film Melanex. It too can be wrapped around the tube and act as a barrier against water vapor or off-gassing. The only thing about this is that it's a rather slippery product, so you have to be sure that you get it wrapped around and secured with a piece of double stick tape. And the other thing is that this material will rip, so be careful not to rip it while you are rolling and unrolling your textile. One final warning. Polyvinyl chloride tubes, or PVC tubes, are exceedingly dangerous to textiles. They emit harmful off-gassing materials that will damage your textiles, so please don't ever use them. Preparing to roll a textile around a tube is actually fairly simple. Before you handle your object, of course, you want to wash your hands and remove your jewelry to make sure that you don't snag anything or transfer any dirt onto the textile. Now, I've laid this textile out flat, which is what you have to do when you're rolling a textile. It has to be laid out perfectly flat. The next thing you want to do is to choose the appropriate diameter tube. Now, the thing about the diameter is that the larger it is, the less stress there is on the textile. So you want to have a tube that will allow the textile to wrap around it easily. And this tube seems to be the right diameter. I certainly wouldn't go any smaller. It's about 3 inches thick. And we can see that wraps around quite nicely. The next thing you want to do is make sure that it's cut to the appropriate size. Now, I like to have at least 6 inches on either side for handling once the textile is rolled, so that when I move the tube, I can handle the ends, not the middle area where the textile is. Now, for this next part, I want to move the rug out of the way so that I can place a header on the tube. Headers are extremely important when you're actually rolling a textile on a tube. In fact, I really don't think that you should ever roll a textile without a header. And it's really very simple. This header I'm going to be putting on here is acid-free tissue paper, but you can also use unbleached muslin that's been washed. Now, a header is very easy to put on a tube, and it goes on before your textile. And basically, you just wrap it around the tube all the way. I like to wrap around at least twice to make sure it's securely wrapped around the tube. Now that I have a header wrapped around the tube, I've positioned the rug so that it is on top of the header. And I have this header extending about 1/4 of the way in. What this header is going to do is allow me to easily roll up this textile. Now that the rug is positioned on the header, we want to make sure that the nap is going in the right direction. The nap of the rug should always go away from the roll. That means that when you rub your hand across it gently, it is smooth. If you rub it in the other direction, it is rough. So you always want the nap to go away from your tube. Now I'm ready to actually roll up this rug, and I want to be sure that the sides are square with my actual tube. So I'm going to make a little adjustment here to make sure everything is as square as it can be. And this is what needs to be square, these edges. You'll notice that the top and the bottom are kind of wonky edges. They're irregular. And that's very common for textiles. They are rarely consistent all the way around. And now I'm ready to roll. And you'll notice the header is on the bottom and the tube is on the top. All the fringe is aligned so that when I roll, I don't have to handle the rug at all. I just gently push the rug forward and roll it up. And then when I get to a point that it's too far forward, I can bring it towards me. Now, I'm a little off, so I'm going to roll back and make an adjustment, and this is extremely common when you're rolling textiles. You often have to roll them more than once to get them right. And so I'm going to do that one more time and make a small adjustment. What you want to prevent is the rug from telescoping out in one direction or the other. And so now we have the tube rolled up, and you'll see on the end that it lines up fairly closely right on top of each other. There's a little bit of variance on either side because it is an unregulated edge, but it pretty much is on top of each other. Now I'm ready to wrap up this rug with a piece of acid-free tissue. You can also use a piece of undyed washed muslin. And what this is going to do is just encapsulate the entire package and act as a barrier against light, dirt, and any pest infestation. And once again, I'm going to use the actual textile now, the rug here, as a header itself, and place this tissue inside. And I'm just going to wrap it gently around. And just wrap it all the way up. Now that the tube is all wrapped up, I just want to fold over the ends. And that just effectively seals up the package, and I want to actually secure it with some polyester ribbon. People use cotton twill tape as well, but the polyester ribbon acts just fine, and it's not as expensive as the cotton twill tape. Whenever you're tying any kind of tape, ribbon, whatever, around your piece, you want to be sure that you're not tying it too tight. You don't want to strangle the piece. You want to be able to actually put your finger in between there. You just want to hold everything in place. And I am out of ribbon, so I'm going to use this piece here. And wrap this around. Now that we have this package, where are we going to put it? The thing about rolled storage is that within institutions, we often have large racks, and they sit very nicely on the rack on either end, and they're supported above. You don't want to place this on a shelf because all the weight is along this line here, And that is a lot of weight along a very small part of the textile. And that can actually break down that area over time by crunching all of those fibers. Now, if you don't have large storage systems, like a bigger institution, you can make cradles to put these items on. We've made a pair of simple cradles out of acid-free board, and they're simple to make. It's just a board that's been bent in half and has a square cut out of it. And then on the bottom, we took 2 pieces of board, scored it, and hot glued it to either side. And they're very, very strong. And the benefit is that once that is set up, I can set my rolled textile on the cradles and then put this whole package on the shelf. And you'll notice the cradle is not on the textile itself, it's on those handling ends, that extra 6 inches we have on either side. Rolling your textiles for storage is a costly, time-consuming process, but it's a great way to store flat textiles that cannot be folded and placed into a box. For information on where to purchase the materials we used here today, please go to the Minnesota Historical Society website. And please refer to our other podcast to see other ways that we can store heirloom textiles.